David Barry from Jewish Online Magazine. Our special guest today is Simon Bentley. Thank you for joining Jewish Online Magazine.
My pleasure.
Can we begin by asking you about your role as chairman of the Leadership Trust?
It's an organisation I've been involved with for over 20 years. It was a strange beginning in that I received a letter inviting me to attend something at the Savoy, and it's the kind of stuff that would normally come in the post and you look at it straight in the bin. This one just sort of sparked a bit of interest. I thought, okay, well, it sounds quite interesting, maybe I should make an effort this time. So I went, and the presentation was brilliant, and it described the power of the team, and it's a very big issue when you have a team of people. If the different people on that team respect each other for their talents, and we all work to our strengths. So I know that she is brilliant creatively, I know he is brilliant administratively, I know I'm good at what I do. The three of us together, we work well together as a team. Of course, you have the reverse of that, where you have teams where everyone is jealous of each other, where they're very defensive, where don't you do that, that's my area. You know you've got a problem then when people haven't got the self-confidence. All about the team, and that's what the Leadership Trust is all about. So I decided, having attended this presentation, that, you know, I was running Black's Leisure Group at the time. If this is going to be a process in terms of leadership in management that I want to put my people through, I better go on it myself. So I went on this 5.5-day course, which was brilliant. In many ways, where tasks that you realise are very simple, after you have done them and completely failed as a team to do what actually was simple, you kind of learn about the power of who is the leader on that project, and the question of who is better at doing what different tasks, and working in that way.
Is it also the situation of being able to delegate and having the courage and the bravery to delegate? Because some people want to do it themselves. And
right. Yes, so it is about leading a team and knowing what that team will expect of you, and being led and knowing what the person who's leading you should expect from you. So it is all about delegating on the one hand and being delegated to. So anyway, so basically I attended the course, really enjoyed it. I then started sending many people from Black's on this course. I got very friendly with the founder, David Gilbert Smith. He asked me if I'd become a trustee. I did become a trustee. I helped sort lots of things out that weren't quite as they should have been. And now, 20 years on, about a year or two ago, I was deputy chairman for quite a long time. I took over from a wonderful person who wanted to step down. It being about the third or fourth time he was going to be stepping down, I'd managed to persuade him all the previous times not to, but this time he was determined, so I now chair this organisation. It's the biggest in the UK in leadership and management, based near Gloucester. So
is it a commercial concern?
It's a charity, it's a registered charity, it operates to fulfil their objectives, which is all about leadership, encouraging leadership, and so we do it in lots of different forms, major companies, major organisations, including Olympic teams currently. So yeah, it's
and you definitely recommend it for companies that perhaps want to get more involved with their employees to facilitate teamwork.
I'd go a bit stronger than that, but yes, I'd recommend it massively to, frankly, all companies that involve teams working, but I'm talking about at the top, but then also lower down. We've expanded our ranges of courses to mean that we're catering for a lower level as well as the higher level, and a progression, so that you start with one and you build on your expertise and skills. So yeah, no, very powerful. And from a Jewish point of view, I know there are quite a lot of our Jewish leaders, not just commercially, but also within Jewish organisations who've been on the courses. Definitely had special kosher catering arranged. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you for that answer. Can you tell Jewish Online Magazine about how you got involved with Yad Vashem?
Yeah, I chair a charity called Jewish Memorial Council, JMC. And amongst the donations we have been giving over the last few years, we've been giving to Yad Vashem directly in Israel. And Yad Vashem in Israel asked me for my assistance to help Yad Vashem, the organisation that supports Yad Vashem in the UK, which I did about a year ago with the dinner they were holding. They had the most amazing, wonderful person, the former Chief Rabbi Israel Meir, now speaking, who, if you haven't heard him speak, please do. If you haven't read his book, please do. Sensational, sensational person speaking. But there was a lot in terms of the number of people who were there and who was there that wasn't as it could and should have been. I was asked if I'd become a trustee. I said no, I'm way too busy just to become a trustee. I said, eventually, I said, if you want me to become involved, I'll need to take over the chair. And because if I can take over the chair, then I really can set about, really reorganising and changing everything that's going on here in the UK for Yad Vashem. So about 3 or 4 months ago, that's what I did, and making a massive difference. There's a huge amount planned, and lots of things. Some things have happened. We have a dinner on the 3rd of July happening. John Burke and Daniel Finkelstein will be in conversation at that dinner. And plenty else, quarterly lectures, Young Yad Vashem being launched, big event in the autumn for that, so yeah.
How important is it for our generation to remember the Shoah, the Holocaust?
It's immensely important, I'd say on 2 counts. Number one, we have the memory of 6 million people that we should never allow to be forgotten. Yad Vashem in Israel have the records of 4.2 million. Out of those 6 million. So that's a memory that we must never allow to fade, and we have a particular thing called Guardian of the Memory, where people can be lined up with one of the victims and to light a candle for them on Yom HaShoah and to think about them, and that's something we really do promote. But equally important, what went on then has happened again, maybe not in the same way or same scale, but it can and will happen again, no doubt. And we have got to get that message across to the civilized world to make sure that people understand that a civilized nation as Germany was managed to completely educate their youth into believing that we Jewish people were the vermin. And so when you see the sight of a man with a rifle pointed at a woman and her child to kill that woman, why? Because he thinks he's destroying vermin, not members of the human race. Well, if they can achieve that, right, it's very, very scary. So yes, it is a memory of the past and massively a message to go out to the world. Don't forget, this can happen. We must never allow this to happen again. That's what Yad Vashem is all about. Yes, no forgetting at all.
Thank you. One of our readers sent a question in. Is there an understanding why organisations decide to boycott some Israeli products?
This may be a bit of a flippant answer. I have a perfect understanding, and it's all to do commercially with those people who believe that if by banning Israeli products they can do more business with those people who hate Israel, that'll be their commercial justification. I think it's revolting.
You don't think there's any anti-Semitism in
Well, I've no doubt that if we did a full analysis of all the situations where these boycotts are taking place, I'm sure that there will be instances where it is literally pure anti-Semitism. I'm sure there are. But I would think the bigger ones that one reads about and one hears about and one knows about, and even national examples, if you go back to what France did when they were supplying Israel with planes and so on, then suddenly abruptly reversed and so on. It was all about judgments based on what the alternative would bring. So yeah.
What's your inspiration to be involved in charitable and commercial projects?
Right. Charitable is different from commercial. Commercial is frankly all about hopefully doing as well as we can, and I enjoy it. I've got a lot of experience at it. So
what's your motivation to be successful?
I I can't give you a beautiful answer on it. All I can tell you is, if you give me a choice between simply lying in bed, reading the paper, or getting up and doing stuff, I'm a person who gets up and does stuff all the time.
Right.
So I'm driven by I'm not driven by the accumulation of wealth or anything like that. I'm not saying I don't enjoy having a good time and all the rest of it. Of course I do. But it's more about the achievement than actually necessarily the financial result.
Yes.
On the charitable front, frankly, it's my upbringing. My parents were involved on a very big scale on lots of different fronts. It was my dad who got me involved at Kish Haron. He was chairman for about 30 years. I'm chairing a dinner next week for Kish Haron. I'm deputy chair on Kish Haron as an example. So it's in my blood. I certainly value being involved in important organisations that are doing good and right things, and commercially there's fun as well as hopefully the right rewards.
Can I ask you, what was your very first job?
Yes, probably my very first job was at a company called Impex Glassware, which was owned, yes, by a cousin of mine. And I used to work winter and summer holidays, and believe me, you won't have found somebody who can wire a lamp holder better than me at the time. I can't remember what rate per lamp holder he was paying me, but yes, it was chandeliers. It was chandeliers in Scrubs Lane, and I used to go there a lot. So I reckon that was my first year.
When I came into your office today, the walls have so much sports memorabilia. Can you tell me about your involvement in sport?
Basically, when I was at Black's Leisure Group, we started, it was an outdoor business with the Black stores, and we started getting involved in sport. We acquired sports retailers, a few multiple retailers, but small multiple retailers around the country. We unified them into something called First Sport. We built it up to about 200 stores. We also simultaneously got involved in sports distribution, so brands like LA Gear in the early days, Fila, Yamaha in golf and cricket, Stiga table tennis, Voigt basketball, Quasar football boots, a whole variety of either distribution of brands or licensing of brands, and in some cases ownership of brands. I like Quasar or own brands within retail. That involved me in sport, and I've been involved for a long time. I was a director of the World Federation of the Sporting Goods Industry. Today I'm the Senior Independent Director at Sports Direct, which is the 6th biggest sports retailer in the world. We've got about 21 brands and some very important brands. So yeah.
What's your favourite sport?
Very good question. I love skiing, although it has loved me less at a certain point in my attempting to say goodbye to this world. So I do love skiing. I love football, but these days it's really watching rather than playing, because at a certain point you have to put up the white flag. Right. Those are probably my two biggest. I mean, the truth is though, I've been doing a triathlon every year for Kish Haron, the Israeli National Triathlon, so that involves running, swimming and biking, and running is certainly something I'm enjoying. Even now.
Do you have any involvement with the Olympics?
Yeah, I've been helping Sir Keith Mills in particular with LOCOG, with their big legacy campaign, International Inspiration. So I put together a private dinner for raising important funds for them. So yes, I do, and of course through Sports Direct we are a major supplier of sports equipment in this country. So yes.
Can I ask, is there a fine balance between a personal and a business life?
To me, I merge them. That's not to say that personal isn't fundamentally important. It is, and ultimately, you know, it will take priority. My business life, I like to feel, is quite social. I'm not a person who goes into work, leaves work, works work, and then the rest of my life. They merge together. I enjoy work, I enjoy the people I work with, and at home I can be doing commercial things or personal things, but frankly at work I can be doing personal things. So I mix them together, being Jewish and being Orthodox, or frum as we say, does give us the day of Shabbat, and that 25 hours that we have, because of Talmudic dispute when it starts and finishes, but that 25 hours is a very important break from work in that sense. Whether you're religious or not, keeping Shabbat, believe me, is amazing. So I have that in my life, as it were, that important break. So, yeah.
Is there an answer for Britain to break out of recession?
If I had that answer, clear, we wouldn't be spending the time doing it now. I'd be busy getting on with it. It's fundamentally, one reality is that we are a growing world. The number of people in this world keeps growing, which means there are more people demanding more products, services, etc. So that is a factor that should always be in our favour, because the demand will always, in that sense, increase. Right now, it is a question of all the medicine that is needed to shake us up, reduce our debt, get us back onto a basis of going forward properly, is what it's all about. And you've got to add into that. I'm a very retail oriented person. You've got to add into that the world is changing. If you're in secondary retail units, you're not in a clever place. If you're owning them, it's even less clever. It's fine for the prime, beautiful centres, and maybe some of the other more niche operators and centres of operation. But online is a very big factor. So there's lots of changes going on, as well as the fact that the world is not in a good place because of excesses and stupidity that have gone on before. We have just got a rough road that we've got to continue going through, and I think it's been worse than people have realised. It's been, I think, low interest rates have helped disguise how difficult things really are, because we're a home-owning country. Therefore, if our mortgages are costing us all a lot less, we think we've got more money, but that's not necessarily reflective of what's actually been going on. So we've got a tough time for the next few years, but we'll come through.
Do you think youth unemployment is going to be a problem in the future, with so many youngsters unemployed at the moment?
One is related to the other. If the economy got healthier, and if you had much more cause and basis for employment, then of course that would massively relieve whatever youth unemployment issues there are. So unemployment is clearly a factor, and it's an ongoing factor, but the cost to the country of servicing unemployed people is a big factor, and a rationale for why. Further rationale for why we have to promote and drive trade.
Our last question today, it was sent in by one of our readers. Is it possible today to build a global company from a market stall to a global organisation similar to the Marks and Spencer experience?
So the short answer is massive, YES, of course.
Oh wow, fantastic.
Without question. You want me to give you a practical example? I work with one. Mike actually started off with one store, having been a badminton coach. One store, we now do 1.8 billion a year in turnover, with the 6th biggest sports retailer in the world, and expanding at a rate of knots. So there's an example I work with. Go more recent, it's not quite the stall, but look at Facebook, look at all the social media. I mean, oh my God, look at those people from nothing to billionaires, just phenomenal in no time at all. So, of course, the answer is yes, but there aren't going to be many, are there? Because it requires real skill, either a genius in terms of a type of idea with a world market that can take it on instantly, or incredibly good operator that works from small beginnings and it really grows. And
that's really encouraging and inspiring. When people see this video, I'm sure people, when they've just heard your answer, they'll be very, very encouraged and inspired to hear that.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Simon Bentley, thank you for joining Jewish Online Magazine.